Dead Creek was a forgotten town in Montana, surrounded by endless forests and old logging roads. Daniel Harper accepted a night caretaker job at an abandoned logging camp far from civilization. The owner warned him about strange sounds after midnight and told him never to investigate them. On his first night, Daniel heard a distant whistle drifting through the trees. Each time he stepped outside, the sound stopped, leaving only silence behind. The next day, townspeople became nervous when he mentioned the whistling. They called the source of the sound the Whistling Man. Old newspaper records revealed disappearances connected to the same mysterious melody. Workers vanished from the camp decades earlier under unexplained circumstances. Every disappearance had been preceded by a strange whistle in the darkness. One snowy night Daniel saw a tall figure standing between abandoned cabins. The figure disappeared when illuminated by his flashlight. Fresh footprints appeared beneath his window but led nowhere. A voice whispered from inside his cabin, telling him to come outside. Terrified, Daniel remained awake until dawn. He decided to leave the camp the next morning. His truck would not start and the battery cables had been cut. While searching for help, he heard the whistle again. A distorted voice spoke through an old radio and warned him. "Do not answer when he calls your name," the voice said. Someone knocked on the office door using Walter's voice. But the figure outside looked wrong and unnatural. Daniel hid inside a storage shed while the creature circled him. The thing copied Walter's voice and later copied Daniel's. It repeatedly urged him to come outside. After escaping the camp, Daniel returned to Dead Creek. The townspeople finally revealed part of the truth. Years earlier, loggers had discovered a hidden tunnel beneath a ridge. After entering it, a man named Thomas Reed began to change. He walked into the woods and returned as something else. The creature learned voices before stealing identities. It could imitate loved ones with terrifying accuracy. The townspeople believed someone had to remain at the camp. Otherwise the entity would come into town. That night the creature followed Daniel back to Dead Creek. It appeared outside the diner during a snowstorm. Everyone hid in a reinforced basement. They shared rules for survival. Rule 1 was never answer when it calls your name. Rule 2 was never let it see your face after midnight. The entity spent hours speaking in familiar voices. It imitated dead relatives and missing family members. The sounds drove several people to tears. At one point it appeared on the basement stairs. It wore Daniel's face and smiled unnaturally. "I can leave wearing you," it whispered. The townspeople realized the danger was growing. Daniel concluded the source must be destroyed. He convinced Walter, Eli, and Deputy Mark to return to the camp. They traveled to the northern ridge and found the tunnel. Cold air flowed from the darkness below the mountain. A distant whistle echoed through the underground passage. The walls seemed unnatural and almost alive. They discovered hundreds of names carved into stone. Some belonged to people missing for decades. Voices from the darkness called each explorer by name. Eli heard the voice of his long-lost sister. A young woman appeared in the tunnel ahead. At first she seemed real. Then her jaw opened impossibly wide and began whistling. The group fled deeper underground. They entered a vast chamber hidden beneath the mountain. Faces were trapped inside the walls like living fossils. At the center stood Thomas Reed. He appeared to be the first whistling man. When he opened his mouth, countless voices joined the melody. The chamber awakened around them. Walter and Mark prepared explosives. Daniel spread gasoline through the cavern. The trapped figures began moving inside the stone. The noise became unbearable. Eli was consumed by the wall while trying to reach his sister. He vanished without a scream. The remaining survivors ignited the fuel and ran. Fire raced through the tunnel behind them. The mountain shook violently. Something grabbed Walter before he could escape. He urged Daniel to finish the mission. With great reluctance, Daniel fled. He detonated the explosives from outside. The ridge erupted in fire and collapsing stone. Screams and whistles echoed through the forest. Then silence finally returned. Authorities later blamed a gas explosion. The people of Dead Creek knew the truth. Walter and Eli were buried as heroes. Daniel left Montana hoping the nightmare had ended. For years he lived quietly and avoided discussing the events. Then a mysterious package arrived. Inside was an old cassette tape with no explanation. The recording contained Walter's voice. He warned that the tunnel had only been one doorway. Eli's voice followed, saying there were others. Before the tape ended, a familiar whistle began playing. Daniel felt the room grow cold. The lights flickered around him. Three slow knocks sounded at his apartment door. A voice outside called his name. It sounded exactly like him. The voice calmly invited him to come outside. Daniel remained silent and did not move. The whistle sounded once. Then twice. Then a third time. A shadow appeared beneath the door. Something bent down to look through the keyhole. Daniel realized the horror had never truly ended. The whistling man had found him again. And somewhere beyond the door, it was smiling.